Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone. This is me, Jonathan Alexander, and I'm here to host our show, Life, Laughter, Happiness. Today we have my co-host, Kelly. Are you there, Kelly?
Yeah, hello, everyone.
Now, our guest today is Imara. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Is that how you pronounce it?
Imara.
Imara. Now, I understand that the reason I brought you on is this is for both of my co-hosts, Kelly as well as when Barbara shows up as well, is that it seems, because you were using your intuition in business. Did you ever run into a situation where somebody was taking advantage of you because you were female and then you used your psychic ability to handle it?
Well, let me put it this way. The subject of women and intuition in business is great because I live that, and I had to be one of the pioneers for blending because of who I am as a natural psychic and intuitive, but being one of the first and few only MBAs in the country in management ranks in corporate America in the 70s. And then on into the 80s. At every position that I was the first. So my first position out at MBA, I was the first management level employee. All other female employee. All of the females were secretaries or clerical assistants or in the home ec department. My next job, I was the first female executive at that high level working for Shasta Sarah Lee. Then my next job, I was the first senior executive ever in the company, in a Silicon Valley company, as a woman. In fact, my boss, much to my chagrin, whispered in my ear as about to be introduced to the company, you're the first female ever to be introduced as a senior executive. We'll see how this goes. I'm like, lovely. And
we'll see how this goes.
I credit my intuition in large part to my business success in negotiating and maneuvering, the corporate world, as well as functionally from a technical standpoint of knowing coming up with some creative or great solutions to problems or responsibilities with which I was tasked. In terms of sexism, there's sexism for women everywhere you go, and it's sad for me to see 40 years later my clients come to me as executives, the female clients come to me as executives with high-level, high-paying positions in Silicon Valley and corporate America and banking and in the law, and they're still facing the same sexism and the same harassment that I faced in the 70s, that the women of my age, we thought, all right, we're enduring it. But we're enduring it so that our daughters and the girls and the women that come beyond us won't have to. And what's sad for me is 40 years later, they're still facing the same stuff.
Well, yeah, a good example of what I was going to say is that people often ask me, how come you don't name the show the Jonathan Alexander Show? How come you don't do that? And I think there's lots of reasons, but one of the reasons is that I want Kelly and Barbara to feel like it's their show too. So I try to have it split. So you understand what I'm saying? That's why my name's not in the show. That's after a concept. It's not meant to be. It's. I mean, I've worried a lot about even accidentally putting one of them in the back seat because of it, of somebody's gender. It's very hard. I mean, you want to make sure that you're always on guard and everything. But it's like when I read your entry in the book, and I was reading that you were basically, that you had you were an actress, which I've heard is an extremely sexually discriminating role to be in. I mean, I've heard that there's a lot of, sexual harassment, going on in that area.
Which book are you talking about? Which book are you talking about?
It was
the 100 Top Psychics in America.
you were in this.
And so they talk a little bit about that, and mostly about my business background. But people ask me about that. When I left corporate and I went down and I was in film and television, people said to me, "Oh my God, you're leaving corporate to go to, and you don't like the sexual harassment and the games and everything else in corporate. How are you going into the film industry that everybody knows? It's like everybody knows that's part of it. Casting couches and you're constantly having to fight stuff off. And I can tell you that for sure, horror stories. But at the same time, I can tell you what I told them then. I said, but at least they're upfront and open about it. In other words, everybody knows what that industry is like, and you can choose to participate or you can choose not to. But you know what you're walking into. In other industries, they pretend to be enlightened and open-minded and equal treating, but they're not. And to me, that's worse. At least be open about me if you've got no ethics. Be open to me if you have no ethics, and I know what I'm dealing with. But it makes it so much harder for the average person to go into something where people pretend to be treating you fairly, and you find out you're not being treated fairly. And that makes women especially doubt themselves.
Do you have anything to say to that, Kelly?
Actually, I do. I had posted on Facebook recently about how another country was making it so that women had to be paid the same amount as men. And there was quite a debate because people were saying things like, well, women choose to have children and stay home or whatever, and that makes them, to where they should be paid less when they come back because they have less experience. And it's like, well, some other countries allow for, the woman gets pregnant, they both get time off that's paid, things like that to raise a child. But people are putting it in the woman's lap like, well, she created her own situation by choosing what she did. And what is your feeling on that?
Well, that's a whole different question than women and intuition in business. Now we're getting into political policy and subgroups and minority groups and how do you equalize everybody. To me, I'm of the belief system that you shouldn't get paid the same amount as someone else if you haven't earned it. So if I have 5 years of experience and you have 10, you should be getting paid more than I have. If I work 40 hours a week and you work 20, I should be making more money than you have. I shouldn't claim sexism or racism or religionism or anything else. However, if I have the same job title as you, the same classification in personnel as you, I have similar responsibilities as you, and we are equals and peers in a company, and we both work full-time, then absolutely we should be getting paid. If I get married, I shouldn't get a demotion or a drop in pay because I'm a woman when a guy often gets a bonus because they consider him more responsible. So I think you should treat equals as equals, but I don't think when you start getting into conversations of maternity leave and taking time off and then women should be paid the same as someone with 15 years of experience when they only have 5, I can't agree with that because that's just not fair. I wouldn't pay an employee, I don't care what sex they are, for 15 years of experience if they've only been in the business 5 years.
Okay, that makes sense.
And to me, that and I think, to get back to the topic of women and intuition in business, I think women do themselves a disservice by not listening to their intuition in terms of how to best advance themselves in the corporate world. I think that women have been taught to dishonor, ignore, listen to their own inner voice. All people have, men and women have been taught that. And I think all people, when they ignore their gut, they miss out on opportunities. my experience has been the best CEOs, the best inventors, the best, most successful people in the world, in the business world, in the corporate world, in the entrepreneurial world, are people that blend intelligence and intuition. You know, we have so many examples of people whose almost divine intuition, their creative juices, their light bulb of an idea that went off in their head is what made them wealthy and famous, and then the ability to manage that forward. And women would do better if they stopped trying to be like men and lived up to their own potential by honoring the skills that they have. And while both sexes have intuition, and in our culture it's undeveloped in most people, women particularly are skilled at being sensitive to people's emotions and needs. And you can use that to understand your boss, your subordinates, your coworkers better, to understand your consumers better, and have an edge into what people are looking for and how to deliver.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay.
You still have to go through the system. You know, you might look at something and go, I know that product needs to change because people will like red better instead of yellow. But the system is such that you'll have to prove it in the traditional ways. You might have to do a focus group or a survey group, and unfortunately waste the money of something you already knew. But the fact that you know that using your intuition will save you time and energy and help you get to that more successful result faster than somebody else. Your intuition may guide you to the fact that a subordinate or a boss is having some issues and they're displaying things to you in a way that may seem negative or treating you badly, and it's really not about you. And if you really step back, don't take it personally, don't get all huffy, don't go into your left brain head and put your hands on your hips and go, well, you shouldn't be treating me like that, and that's not fair, and, you know, and you stop and quiet yourself for a moment and listen to your own intuition and your gut, you know, it may come to you that this isn't about you and it's about something personal or something that happened to him or something that happened with his boss. And that's going to give you a totally different reaction to that person and how they treat you, and likely give you the power to diffuse what could potentially be an explosive or negative situation for you. And instead, you end up becoming their best ally because you diffused it, you didn't take it personally, and you were able to go with that flow and actually be a steadfast person when that person was going through an erratic or emotional time and didn't take it personally. So you can use your intuition functionally, technically, as well as psychologically to really help yourself. And I think that's something that offsets, you know, things we don't have. We don't have the good old boy network. We do have our own internal higher guidance network, and we should make it work for us.
Good old boy network?
Okay.
What's that mean?
I'm sorry, Jonathan, what did you say?
I was wondering what the good old boy network was.
Well, what I'm saying is, you know, men generally come into businesses with a societal support of knowing how to plan a team, knowing how to network, relying on each other, buddy, slap on the back, let's go out for drinks stuff, you know. They are much better skilled at networking. We teach boys how to do that from the time they hit their first bat at, you know, little league slow pitch. And our culture and our society is geared around it as well. We have all-male golf clubs, all-male country clubs, all-male bars and country clubs. The male networking is all there in place to support a rising male in the business system. Women don't have that. Women don't work well together. Women don't. We don't network. I don't mean we don't work well together on the job, but we don't network well together, and we're at a disadvantage.
I want to make a comment based on what you said. You know, it's funny because since we've been doing the show, we've been doing. I guess I should say since I've been doing it with Kelly, What we covered a lot is paranormal or the supernatural, And what I found is that women universally love the paranormal and supernatural. It wasn't until Barbara came on board, and by the way, she just let me know she wouldn't be on the show today, but Barbara's like a Playboy playmate. So all of a sudden the men started showing up and Barbara started showing up. But it's like it does seem that it seems like in the paranormal world. Do you find that women like the paranormal more than men do, or do you think it's 50-50?
Well, with my background as an MBA from Northwestern University and economics major and running corporate divisions, I have a lot of male clients. I have more male clients than most people that do what I do for a living because they come to me because of my credentials. I had an NBC producer from Colorado Today say to me one day, he goes, the reason I like you and I want you on the show is, he said, you're like the girl next door with these great credentials. You're not some frizzy-haired, hippie, barefoot freak from Boulder. And that's the expression he used. That's not me. I'm not insulting anybody. But, and it's those same credentials that allow men to feel comfortable and, I guess, more confident in seeking my advice. But it's also still very closeted. For a male or a CEO or a director on a board of directors to be getting advice from me, they don't publicize that, because
I imagine they probably
the paranormal world is okay for women, but we kind of make it not okay for men. So a lot of women are more comfortable, to your point, I think, because it's societally expected or accepted that women are into hands-on healing or alternatives. It's women's intuition. It's, all those things. Again, it's about expectations in society, and do we break them? Do we bust them? Do we transcend them? How do we share each of our gifts, the males and the females, with each other so that we balance each other and complement each other?
I mean, one of the things that I really liked about Kelly was that when she was doing the Chakra Days, I think we had a psychic on, and I immediately introduced her as my co-host. Well, that made her light up like a Christmas tree, because it was sort of like it put her. I did it because I wanted her to feel on an even playing field, if that makes any sense. And the truth is, Kelly had earned it. I mean, it's not just saying she's co-host to say she's co-host. I mean, Kelly would advertise for shows, and she do all this without me asking. So it was like to her, it was something she really wanted to be a part of. And it's not, I mean, nothing, I mean, I think what it is that, you said like in the 15 years and the 5 years, I mean, Kelly was really putting in the energy. And I wanted her to feel that, I wanted to feel like she was appreciated for the stuff that she did. You understand what I'm saying, Kelly, right?
Yeah, thank you.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it was sort of, but so whenever I call Kelly co-host, she giggles because it's a real special thing for her.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I about wore that T-shirt out.
She has a T-shirt. I got her a T-shirt. So it was, when you, I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, what happens when a client comes to you and asks you for advice, but you don't particularly like them as a person?
It's my job to judge or like you or not like you. It's not my job. I mean, this is not a dating match service. It's just like your doctor and your lawyer. You go to them not because you want them to like you, but because you want them to be really good at what they do and give you the best medical treatment, give you the best legal representation, in my case, give you the best counsel advice that you can. It's not about liking people. That's a subjective judgment that would color. I would think it would color information. It doesn't matter if I like you or not. It's not my job.
What's the? I don't want you to name me.
I wish more women would understand that in business. Again, when we talk about the topic of women in business and intuition, too many women I find in the last 40 years go into a company thinking it's a tea party and a social club, and they want to be there to make friends. Guys want to be there to get ahead, and that's a lot of how guys advance. Women are more concerned with the personal relationships of, the whole, well, she treated me this way, she talked to me. I cannot tell you how many clients come to me complaining about what somebody thinks of them or how they talk to them. And it's so different than when men come for career advice. And, some men are really bothered by that and they get stuck in it. And it's a weakness for them too. It's an Achilles heel for them too. When they focus on the emotional aspects of interpersonal relationship instead of doing the best job they can and rising above the others by their performance. So for me, it's real important for women to understand, you want a social club, go play tennis, go have a quilting bee, meet your girlfriends after work, but don't come to work and expect that everybody's supposed to be your buddy. You're being paid by your employer to get a job done. And you should try to get along with everybody and certainly be cordial and smart and politically savvy, but you're there to get a job done. It's not a club.
We have a caller. Are we okay with taking this call?
Cool, absolutely.
Okay. Area code 253, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi,
Hello.
This is Imara. Who's this?
Hi, Imara. It's Deneen.
Sam?
Pardon me? My name is Deneen.
Hi.
This is I think a friend of one of our regulars, Robin.
Yes, it is. Hi.
Hey. How are you?
I'm having the most amazing day.
Good.
Fabulous.
So I'm afraid I just...
Imara?
Do I have a question?
Yes.
I do have many questions, and I'm sorry that I just got on the podcast now, so I'm not sure exactly where we're at. I've got kind of caught a little off guard.
Well, what we're talking about is women in business not being taken advantage of because they are female, and using intuition to get over it. Robin had, not to give too much information, Robin told me that that might be a concern for you. If you ever worry about being taken advantage of because you were female. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I am a firefighter, and so I am around a lot of males, and I've worked in a lot of male-dominated fields. And I've had a lot of people ask me how I'm being treated by the other males, and I'm very fortunate in my little pod of people that I work with that I get treated like an equal. But going throughout the department in different crews, it's not always the case. So I guess my question is, how do you still be professional and I guess have the expectation that people are going to treat you still as a woman because I am a woman, but that I can do the job equally?
The first thing you have to do is banish any and all expectation that people will assume you can do the job equally.
Okay.
So in any job, you're not going to be presumed to do the job equally. They're going to automatically assume and you know what assuming does. It makes an ass out of you and me. They're going to automatically assume that you can't do the job equally if in certain jobs, especially, as a physically demanding firefighter job, but they're going to do it in business too. They're going to assume that you don't know what you're doing, and you do have to work harder and prove yourself better to be seen as an equal. And so what I would advise is don't go in there expecting people are going to just treat you equally because you walked in the door because you're a woman. They're not going to treat you equally. You have to teach them just like you have to earn trust of anybody. So any employee or any coworker has to earn trust when they're new to the team. And firefighters are a real close-knit group, Somebody new coming in for these 5-day, 24-hour shifts, it's like you're coming into a family. It's just a matter of proving yourself, and where you can get into trouble is if you take it personally as if someone's personally attacking you, as if you're somehow a victim. You just have to banish the thought. You just have to not take it personally, say, look, this is the way society is where I live, and that's okay because that's the way society is. I'm just going to prove to them they can trust me. I've got their back. The woman that needs to be rescued from the second floor burning building can trust me, and I'm going to prove that. My co-firefighters are going to trust me when they see I can pull my own weight. And once you prove yourself and you're treated with respect, you can relax a little bit more, but you can't take it personally. And that's the mistake I see people making. They take it personally, and then they get resentful, huffy, they have a chip on their shoulder, and now it becomes this snowballing effect where they walk in with a chip on their shoulder and they're likable.
Oh, that's wonderful advice. That's great.
Yeah. So and it sounds to me like you hold your own very well, and that I think the reason people in your team treat you the way that they do is because I get that about you. You don't take it personally. You go in there expecting to have to prove yourself and expecting to do as good a job as anybody else, and you do. And what I get is you earn the respect of the people who know you. And so when you are around people who don't know you so well, you're going to run into more of those societal prejudices. But kudos to you for doing what you're doing, because you're changing it for other people that come after you. Because of their experience with you, they're not going to expect the next woman that walks through the door not to be as good. They're going to expect her to be as good as you are.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Now, if I may bring something up, it was apparently it was Robin mentioned something that you were trying to start a business. Is that true?
It is true, yes.
Okay, I thought maybe you might want to talk to Imara about that.
So my business is, like you said, firefighters have a very tight-knit group of individuals. We tend to have a lot of trust because we're trusting, the person beside you to be able to pull you out of a fire, or your life depends on them. So you're depending on, like a brotherhood. Anyways, we all have second jobs, and I wanted to have a network where we can trust each other in services. So like different types of services that we all do. So some do construction, some do counseling, some do any kind of.
I have that app on my phone.
Seriously,
I have that app on my. You know about that app, right? The Firefighters app.
No, I don't know about it.
So what you're getting at, there is an app that already exists. And if you need any of those things done, contracting work, repair work, handyman work, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You hit on this app, you put in your zip code, you put what you want, and the firefighter off duty with those skills will call you back.
Wow. No, I did not know that existed.
Yeah, no, that's not it. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for the name of it, but yeah, it addresses exactly that. Off-duty firefighters who want or have a second business, just as you described.
Wow. Well, there you go. It already exists.
Yeah. I'm just trying to remember the name of it, but they promoted it with, pictures of cute firefighters, you know how that goes. So it's called Hydrant, Hydrant.
I will check it out. Thank you.
Connecting people in need of skilled labor with qualified off-duty firefighters available to work.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who knows? They might be able to train the Dalmatian to push do the chores or something. I don't know. Why do they always carry
if you have ideas to expand beyond what they're offering, you might be able to either hook up with something, a service like that, to expand it, or do something very local and geographically based.
Yes, well, I do. I have something I want to do a little bit more internationally, but I at this moment actually don't want to really say it out loud.
Say too much. I know. Yeah. I get it.
I'm sorry if I embarrassed you by calling you out.
I think that you're very organized about, kind of your goals. So it seems to me that your ability to be very grounded in pursuing your goals will help you in this endeavor. But, yeah, check out that other company first, because there is one that does exist with a similar platform.
Well, I promise I will, because I think I can do it better.
There you go.
Right.
I love that attitude.
I'm sorry if I didn't mean to call out on something that you didn't want to talk about.
Oh, that's okay. That's perfect. I'm very honored to be on your show.
Vague because I get that sense that we don't want to say too much on the phone on the radio here.
Yeah, I think it's such a great idea that I don't really want to share it and have somebody else run with it.
Do you have any other questions, Deneen?
Is this I can ask personal questions as well?
You can ask me anything you want. I'm known for my work with business and careers, but there's no area of anyone's life that's taboo. I work with people on personal issues, spiritual issues, marriage, life, kids, doesn't matter.
All right. Well, my mom is 72 years old and is now just splitting up with her husband and is trying to figure out how to rework life at this point. So I don't know what kind of businesses and things people can go into at that age, or.
What's your mom's name?
It's Betty Bullivant.
Betty. I feel like Betty's been very wounded by her husband.
Yes.
And I feel like, on the one hand, I feel like Betty has an inner core of strength and chutzpah and you go girl kind of energy. On the other hand, I feel like she's been beaten up and she questions what is naturally her inner strength because she's been cut down. And for Betty, I think at this point in life, I know it's very frightening to do what she's doing, but I also get it's actually for her own good and better late than never kind of thing.
Yes.
So she's going to be fine,
so
and the whole fact that she's going to have a greater sense of satisfaction and inner peace once she gets over the grieving and she gets distance enough from this man to rebuild her inner strength is going to open up a lot of doors for her in terms of dealing with people. I see her dealing and talking with people and having that be a double-edged sword, in that on the one hand, it's almost like therapy for her to rebuild her confidence, and on the other hand, it's a benefit to whoever either hires her or lets her volunteer for them that she's really good at it, and she gets better at it as she goes because her confidence is built. So I just see her talking and helping and working with people in a service-oriented kind of way.
Wonderful.
That's what I encourage her to do, and it'll be very healing for her.
Oh, thank you. That's
but
wonderful. That's really been on my mind.
Than she does now. Right now, she's afraid of the retribution, but there'll be greater peace coming for her when she's separated and everything is done legally.
Okay. That is magnificent. That's really wonderful for me to hear.
This is going to actually extend her life, probably by about 10 to 14 years.
Yay!
Yeah.
What else
okay, well, primarily it's just my mother, and didn't know where, because I live in the States and she lives in Canada, how that would work out for taking care of her and where she would go and how she would end up living and that kind of thing.
Well, I was just going to make a comment, not to go over the tangent, but maybe we could have you and your mother in for a chakra day. What do you think, Kelly?
I think that would be good if they're up for it.
To have her call in?
We're chakra day, one of our chakra days.
Oh my gosh, that would be incredible. I've heard your chakra days are unbelievable.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah, we'd love
You're
to.
welcome.
Okay.
When should I have her call in?
Well, we'll set it up. What I'll do is I'll text you after the show and set it up. Do you feel like I have a question. I mean, it's when you talk to firemen, do you find they have a high level of intuition because they're in businesses where they have to stay on their feet, like policemen and firemen?
You know, we have the people that have been on the job for quite a long time are intuitive, for the most part, as a group. But I wouldn't say there is a bit of a movement at current moment with a lot more people. I'm a little bit woo-woo myself, or how they would describe woo-woo. You know, I'm into Joe Dispenza, Abraham Hicks. So a few of these people in my life that aren't mainstream for firefighters. And I
was actually wanting to know if Imara has seen, like, have you ever had any firefighter clients before?
Do what before? Sorry.
I'm asking if Imara has had any firefighter clients before.
Oh.
If I had any firefighter what? I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Before.
I'm trying to think. Yes, I've few, but I've had a couple. I've also had some recon guys, Swift, Silent, and Deadly, be clients. I've had government people that can't talk about their work and where they are in the world because we,
like me, double top secret.
That's where our government has sent them. And it's pretty amazing, these guys, some of the militarily trained guys that are doing undercover work. You know, they, I think, trust me because they trust their own gut. You know, they live and die by their gut. And so I think there's a lot to be said. They don't call it intuition by any means, but it's their gut. They live and die by it, and they listen to it. And I think that's why they are receptive to or seek out services such as mine, because they know their own gut, their own inner voice has talked to them many times in life or death situations and helped them.
They're very fortunate to have a relationship with you that way.
Thank you. Well, I'm very honored by it, and I have done some really interesting work with them on a consultant basis as well as hypnosis. And I am proud of that because they're trained to resist hypnosis and brainwashing. And so I've done some work in hypnosis to help some of them heal, and it was pretty fascinating. But the trauma and the stress and the PTSD symptoms that come with jobs like that. Also, it's not just the intuition in terms of guidance, but the healing after the fact can be very powerful.
Well, the combination of hypnosis and actually therapy called EMDR has really been successful around our department. Everyone talks about that.
Yes, and they're using it more and more in the mainstream environments. I have some military veteran friends who have been sent to get EMDR.
So nice it's mainstream now, or getting there.
Getting there, right. Well, Virginia just passed. Didn't the congressman from Virginia just get Congress today or yesterday to pass a motion that they will investigate alternative holistic methods and do a scientific study for use in the VA?
Wow, that is wonderful. I did not know that.
Yeah. So
we're all going to get healthy.
Yeah. Very nice.
If we choose, it's amazing how, people all talk a good story, but then they don't walk the talk. It's easier to microwave fast food. It's easier to go through a drive-through. It's easier to stay at a job or in an industry you hate than it is to walk your talk. So it's always up to us.
Good point. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, Kelly?
Well, with that, obviously, if they do things like energy work, and have that be covered under insurance, that's going to take a long time. But do you see other, alternative health type things in the future, starting to be covered under insurance?
Some of them already are, but most of the work that I do, I'm a traditional used to be Reiki master. I'm a sound healer using crystal bowls and sound. I'm a master hypnotherapist. Some things are covered, but the practitioner has to work within the system then to have that covered. And now what might be a $100 session goes to a $200 session because you have mounds of paperwork and you don't get paid for 6 months. So just like with massage therapists, where you have massage therapists, and most massage therapy for rehab is covered by insurance, but a lot of massage therapists don't work in that field because of the bureaucracy and the cost involved to be able to take insurance patients. I see more modalities being accepted, like acupuncture is, like chiropractic is, like Reiki is, and sound healing is being used, obviously, more. But it's going to be a long time before that is accepted mainstream in America. Most of us don't even have basic health insurance. Whereas Europe uses holistic methods and alternative methods and energy methods and homeopathic methods, and the government pays for it as part of their regular insurance or their regular medical care. We are decades away from that here.
Oh, okay.
And it's unfortunate because most of the modalities you ask about and that we talk about are preventative, and they would reduce the medical burden financially. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? There are certain interests that don't want the pharmaceuticals to be used less. That would not be good for business. They don't want, certain services to be used less medically because that wouldn't be good for their business model. So we have two opposing forces at work here, the welfare of citizens and people and the continuation and the share prices of already established monolithic company.
Yeah, this is Deneen, and the girl beside me, my girlfriend from Canada, Dana, used to work in the prison system doing therapy with them that they've proven works, but they wouldn't keep her going because it was inconvenient for some exact reason. But here.
Yeah, there's a lot of work going on in the prison system and the hospitals, but it's being done off record. I was asked to do something for Native American prisoners years ago, which I did. I have clients that work in the prisons, and they go in there with crystal singing bowls and meditations. hospitals. A lot of us go into hospitals and we do Reiki and we do sound healing. We bring bowls, but all of that is, not paid for unless you can get a grant. You can apply for a grant possibly to do some of that work, but it's not long-lived, and it's not something that you're going to be put on the payroll about. And then there are some places that still think you're a witch, so they don't want you there. And there are other places that are very accepting and integrative and encouraging of their patients to use this. So it really depends regionally where you are.
That's so true, and also the correctional officers, I wanted to work with them as well, but because they felt like they had something better to offer, in the sense of using their SWAT uniforms or their squad team uniforms and using aggression. And instead of doing something like clearing and working with the post-traumatic stress disorder while they were in the prisons so they could heal while they're there, because they don't have the money when they come out to work with therapists, usually.
Right. Well, it's the same thing with retraining and job training. If they don't get trained in the prison, they end up back in the prison anyway after they get out because they have no ability to earn a living and take care of themselves. That's why some of these programs with training them to be dog behavioralists and dog trainers is so successful. They're healing. It's a healing modality when they're in prison, and it's a job when they get out of prison, right when they walk out the door. And we don't focus on that. There's no money to be made by the private companies that are now owning the prison system by healing these people.
And I totally agree. And with that, if we educate the inmates, which I would call participants while they were working with me, when we educate them with the tools and the technologies, so because they take themselves wherever they go, they can learn that they can have these modalities to heal themselves when they're out of the prison and fall back on these tools. Yeah.
Right. You're giving them tools and coping skills to handle being in, the general population. And so many of them got into jail because they didn't have tools and coping mechanisms. So absolutely, I agree with you. It's a really important area, and a lot more people are doing work in it. But sadly, all the people I know that are doing work in it, they're either not being paid well to do it, or they're doing it on a volunteer basis or on a temporary grant basis. They get a grant, and then the grant expires, and they have to move on.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to go into that world, and it would be so cool if I could dream about it. I would love for the people that were behind the desks to be on board with it fully, and so that we could all be working as a community, not as pointing fingers and myself at them or them at the inmates or at anything, and we could just band together and reform the people that are behind the bars.
The place to reform is when they're children. One of my favorite sayings is, it's better to build strong men than to fix. It's better to build strong children than to fix broken men. And I forget who said that. I apologize. But it is so true. We just keep raising generations that end up in the same place. You've really got to look at where did we go wrong in our society to have this kind of a culture, that we'd rather spend billions and billions of dollars housing broken people in a broken system than to change our education system from the age of 5.
Right. Yeah, right.
I have something to add to that. I know somebody that's a teacher in an impoverished school district, and the kids, rather than, answer questions in class because they're afraid they might not know the answer, they'll stand on their desk and be disruptive, or they'll set fires, they'll swear, they'll, start fights, and it's really sad because, the teacher friend I've got is trying to break up fights and stuff, and then the kids get sent down to the principal's office, and then the principal sends them back, and then they're disrupting the other students, some of which are trying to learn. And, then if the teacher says something to the student, then they're called out for, well, you can't single out the student. But if the student is kicked out of school and expelled, like there's one that was only in school 20 days out of the whole year because he kept getting expelled, a lot of those kids are already on tethers by the time they're in high school. And if they get kicked out too much, then they're in the prison system and will probably never get out. And there's a lot of gangs and things like that.
There are schools around the world that are using alternatives for behavior modification. They're using meditation. They're using yoga instead of detention. And we are very much behind in America in doing that. So we say to the kid, you go to the principal's office, you go to detention, and then you sit there and make them feel bad, and they cause even more problems, as you said. But many, many other places, they send them after school, and they teach them how to meditate. They teach them how to get in touch with themselves. They teach them how to breathe. They give them the tools that Deneen was talking about giving them. And they have shown in example after example that it works. Gee, imagine that. It works, and the children become less disruptive, more focused, better students, more engaged. And that's the raising strong children versus fixing broken men concept. We haven't quite gotten that, sadly, but hopefully as more and more people here see that it does work and it's not crazy and woo-woo, they will be more courageous in trying it.
Yeah, learning more about themselves. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Thank you. Turning in instead of looking outwards, learning more about themselves and practicing, again, how do I react to this particular situation and this patterned emotion that we can be addicted to and not even realize that our subconsciousness is running the show.
And in all of that, you're helping them develop that thing we call intuition, that inner voice, that higher voice, by going within for the answers rather than always looking without for a distraction. And that's really important not to shut that down in children, because all children are born with it, and it continues to develop until they're about 5, because the left brain is really developing important skills from 0 to 5. And when we shut that down, we shut down their ability to have their own independent intuition. We shut down their ability for divergent thinking. And, we end up with a bunch of little drones that fill in circles on test charts and listen to whatever the government wants to tell them they should listen to. So it's something we're born with as humans. We just educate it out of people, and we have to stop doing that if we're going to raise the next generation with better results than we have been doing.
So very true.
And economically, it pays, because economically, if you have people that are high functioning, that are not in trouble, that are not breaking the law, that are fulfilling their potential, that are peaceful, that are happy, that are creative, that are productive, man, everybody benefits. Even economically, the companies benefit by more creative employees. The products are new and innovative and on target. The social relations are harmonious. The teams within a corporation are more productive. That all drops to the bottom line. It's not just, I want to feel good. It's practical to raise more functional humans, whole humans using all parts of their brain. It's just not advantageous for those few who are in power and want to stay there and keep everybody else away and not change anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So may I ask a question? This is Dana. Thank you so much. So I was the one that was working in the prisons, and I decided to quit because I was up against a wall because of everything that you were talking about. They didn't want to go with it, and and try something different, even though it was working. In fact, they were medicating the participants because they were too happy in prison and they didn't like it. So I've taken my business out of there. I've enjoyed more than anything doing that, and yet I wasn't healthy for me after a while either. So I'd like to take my business in another direction. I was wondering, my gut is to keep doing what I'm doing, working with the mind, working with people that are patterned. I do believe we can become unpatterned when we become aware and work in our become aware of our subconscious and our consciousness and work together hand in hand with it. So I'd like to make that message a lot bigger. Do you see a path that would support where I want to go with it?
So you don't want to work anymore with the prisons at all? Is that what you said?
That's correct. Not right now. It's so much red tape for me, and I do want to be paid for what I love to do, and I want to, yeah. Right.
Well, I think that it's important that the reason I asked that is as you were talking, I felt that there was a way you could get in there and get paid for what you do. So if it's a question of getting paid, we can solve that problem. If it's a question of I just don't want to work in that environment, that's a different thing. Because as you were talking, what I was saying is, well, she's not working for them directly, but I see that there are foundations that she could connect with that would sponsor her and pay for her to do the work she's doing. So that was one thing. I also felt like for some reason I get that there is an affinity with you or a resonation with you and vice versa with these big governmental things like prisons, hospitals, the military, law enforcement. And that there are foundations and groups and organizations, unions, that you could submit proposals to that would pay you to work with certain groups. So the group isn't paying you, but indirectly you're being paid by this organization who is tasked with the welfare or the recovery of, or who benefits from the recovery of, whether it lowers their costs or whether it maintains the workforce. And I see you targeting those types of groups that kind of sponsor you to do the work with other people that we're talking about.
You're bang on. I've been looking at, sorry.
Go ahead. No, what I was just going to say is I see that it's the fastest route for you to achieve what you just said you wanted to achieve.
Okay. You're bang on. I was looking at working with soldiers, so they were proactive, so that they were prepared prior to going in to any kind of a war zone, and so they would have the tools with them when they were there. So it doesn't have to land cellularly, molecularly on their bodies and stay there until they come out and deal with it. They could.
There's the build strong children instead of fix broken men. It's a lot faster to train them to deal with it better than to try to fix them when they come home all broken. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And there are groups that do that. There are companies that have foundations that will sponsor things like that. So exactly, that's I see you working in that field with these military, medical, law enforcement groups like that.
Where to begin with that? Because we're right on the same vein. I've wanted to do this, not knowing where to begin.
Start with going to the organization itself and say, who do you work with? Who are the organizations, the nonprofits, the foundations that work with you to help you recover? Go to the charities, the names I won't mention that we all know that are big and advertised, that help veterans and wounded, and they have the connections to get you in to the before side as well as to the after side. Go to there's so many of those groups out there. Start making a list of all the registered nonprofits and foundations that work with the groups you want to work with. Tell them what you have to offer and set up a presentation.
Okay. Oh, you're so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you for your work, and don't undersell yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Don't undersell yourself, because I could see you going in there and asking for like 10% of what you should be asking.
You'd be correct about that as well.
See, I knew that.
I just want people to feel as good as I do.
Well, then, in order for that to happen, you have to have a roof over your head, a car to drive there, good food in your belly. You have to be healthy and well and at peace, and you can't be that if you're not compensated in a fair way.
Yes, true story.
I know how you do things.
Yeah. Yes, you do. You absolutely do. You've got that one well done. Do you see if I'm doing this in the States, BC, or in Alberta at all?
Canada, Alberta. It's such a beautiful place. Alberta,
yes.
Alberta and Canada. Is this more to be done by Dana in the States or Canada? I feel like I'm kind of torn there. On the one hand, I want to say right now, immediately in the United States.
Yeah.
Because that's almost like where where your connections are, where you're tied into. But then I feel like there are options in Canada that would be almost more easily receptive to you. So I think it might be a logistics thing where I'm getting the United States now, but there may be more receptivity in Canada when you were logistically ready for that.
You're bang on again, Bella, because I'm visiting in the States and I live in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So take advantage of your time here now and see what connections you can make to develop something. And, and really do your homework here before you tackle Canada.
Okay.
Well, you have a fabulous evening. It was wonderful to talk to you. Thank you for calling in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Imara.
Yeah, thank you,
and
everyone.
Thank everybody for helping out. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome. Yeah, this was great. Thanks.
Thank you all. Nice to visit with you again. And if anyone would like to know more, they can go to my website.
Okay. What's your website, ma'am?
Consultingwithavision.com is one website, and my phone number is 303-575-1100.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope we can have you on again soon. You were really great tonight. Talk to you soon.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Kelly. Nice to meet you.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.